I'm Andrew Ridgey. This is Hospitality and Politics, powered by the New York City Hospitality Alliance. And I knew this interview and this conversation is going to just be like, I don't know, a whirlwind, because Cortney Bond is amazing. She has incredible ideas and thoughts and just so much energy. And we had talked about this a while back. It's like, you have to come on the show.
Yes. And thank you so much for having me. Honestly, I told you this is a beautiful space and I am really excited to be here. And I think, you told me like 30, 45 minutes, I'm a talker. So you're just going to have to cut it off. But it's always great when we get together and we're able to talk about these things, to roundtable, to express ourselves and ideas. So I am very honored to be here. Congratulations to you on this beautiful studio and pod, and another way for you to connect to New Yorkers and to connect other business owners and people in the hospitality. We're all reinventing ourselves and everyone has a pod, and I think this is really great for the alliance.
That's like a great promotion.
Yeah, like nicely done. I'm a polite New Yorker, so that's it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, on that point, one of the things that we try to do is create these spaces to have important conversations with people in the industry, like who are they, what do they do, which we're going to get into a lot of with you. But how do you explain yourself? Because I have to say, I know a lot of people, and when you meet you, and this is a compliment, it's like you are meeting a person with a personality. And I think that goes to a lot of your success. But how do you describe Cortney Bond and your businesses?
Yeah, I would say the word that's most commonly used is intense. It's kind of like black coffee. It just, it's either for you or it's not. There's definitely no milk or sugar that's usually included. I actually, I drink my scotch the same way, just neat, just right out of the bottle. So it's not for everyone, but it's for some people. I get asked this quite a bit, and to be honest, sometimes, going back to industry, it's just that genetic cocktail that you were given. This is the type of energy I've always had. This has always been the type of person that I am. I can say that my upbringing and where I'm from, I was born and raised in Las Vegas. I was born and raised in Las Vegas to two immigrant parents. My father came from Syria. My mother came from Canada, and they met in a nightclub. They met in a nightclub called the Elephant Bar in Las Vegas, which was a really famous nightclub back in then. And, it was, of course, love at first sight. And they danced all night. And here I am. And
I think that's what also makes it in your DNA.
It's in my DNA. It's in my DNA. I mean, and this is why I'm so passionate about nightlife. I love restaurateurs. You read Danny Meyer's book, and this guy's, dreaming about tomatoes and going to farmers markets. And for me, I love the nightlife. I love the music loud, the drink strong, the people dancing. It really is in my DNA.
There's a song like that. I love the nightlife.
Oh, there is. And I really do. I love the nightlife. So I love the nightlife. And, you should do what you love. You should be a part of what you love because it shows.
Yeah.
Then it's, that much more, authentic when you do something that you really love. And I truly do love it. And my family, like I said, my father's from Syria. We come from a culture where arak, we're drinking, we're playing music at dinner. And then before my dad's on the chair belly dancing. This is just part of growing up. But I really did come from a hospitality family. So my mother was one of 6 kids. She was the black sheep in her family. She left Canada. She was on a plane. She saw the lights of Las Vegas and she fell in love. And so she came to Las Vegas, in the 70s, and she was adamant about wanting to be a dealer. They wanted her to be a cocktail waitress. She was a hot little blonde and she wanted to be a dealer. And that was not heard of. There were not female dealers. So not only did she become a female dealer, but my mother was actually one of the first female pit bosses in all of Las Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah, she worked at Caesar's Palace, for 20 plus years, and she put books out there about teaching future dealers. Our home was modeled as a dealing school. So when I was growing up, my mother taught me how to play, blackjack, deal blackjack when I was 8, when I was 9, pie gal, poker, all of these games. And she would get these aspiring dealers in our apartment and she would teach them how to deal. My father ran the limo companies out there. He's also a professional gambler, and that's a story for another pod, another time. And so I came from a true hospitality family. My mother is still a dealer. She's 75 years old. She deals at Mandalay Bay still, and she loves it. She's still there doing the damn thing. And so when you have the gambling and the dealing and the limo covered, then obviously someone else has to cover the bars. So here I am.
There you go. Perfect.
Here I am.
Yes, it all
yes.
together.
Mhm.
So let's talk about nightlife. Listen, everyone has hot takes on the state of nightlife in New York, just the state of nightlife kind of around the globe. And people also always think, things were a lot cooler, more authentic when they were going out. So what's your take on the state of nightlife in New York City and perhaps just nightlife more globally?
I feel like we do that when we look back at certain memories. I feel like we always say that the 80s were the greatest and the 90s were the greatest. And it was always greater, back then. We have these like iconic memories of back then, even me in Vegas, I remember having, my first fake and my best girlfriend and I, we would go to these clubs that were just so fun and we would dance all night. I feel like certainly when things are brand new, they're going to be that much more powerful. So the idea of a mega club, that was obviously had to be new for the first time. Dancing, we went from, a country where, you were not allowed to dance, you were not allowed to commingle, to a mega club, to, yes, we were trying different substances and feeling our bodies in certain ways. So when it's the first, it's going to hit a different way.
Sure.
I do feel like, though, like I said, no matter what decade and what we've been through, and this is why I was very adamant, and maybe this is jumping ahead, but this is why I was adamant about staying in New York. I had a lot of opportunities to go to potentially Miami or someplace else where we weren't hit as hard, but I was adamant about the nightlife because of how vital it is to not just our city, our state, our country, but to our lives.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent of, move your body until you can't. And I think that music is so powerful and it doesn't matter the vice, right? So like I know, I'm sure we'll touch on where drinking is right now, but I was an athlete in my 20s. I never drank. I went to clubs for years and never had a drop of alcohol, but I wanted to dance. And we want to dance. We want to hear the song. Listen, Dancing Queen comes on. It doesn't matter what decade, where you're at, someone's dancing. So I think that nightlife, it can't just be one, we have to adapt, we have to change, just as though people are changing and adapting. But I still feel like people getting together in a crowd and listening to music and moving their body and having a good time and really just like letting go of the thoughts, right? We're so, we're such thinkers now, especially there's so much information constantly being given to us and we have to keep up with so much. So it's nice to be able to disconnect and just, dance. You think about, when you're a kid and all they're doing is dancing. All they're doing is moving.
Of night. I mean, it's the human experience,
yes.
right? Music, movement, dancing,
yes.
socializing.
Yeah.
And that's where this human experience happens in bars, in nightclubs, which is so important. And I love how you said that it was important for you. And I presume you were alluding to like the pandemic, places that maybe were hit less hard or were more open than New York, but you really wanted to stay here and you were committed to New York. What are your places? So I know, but what are your places in New York that you own and operate?
So my first place, and I made sure to down the road here. So let me just, if I can spin here. So
there we go.
Yeah, so we have the three. So UES was my first one that I opened in 2017. That's the ice cream shop Speakeasy. That's on 89th and 2nd. And that is, the ice cream shop up front. Like I mentioned before, that we needed ice cream shops and cocktail bars. And that's more of a roaring 20s, Great Gatsby type of feel, vintage vibes over there. And she's going to be 8 in November. And then I opened up not a Speakeasy, which was actually, it was a request. So prior to the pandemic, the request was there's no places to go dancing on the Upper East Side. And, you didn't always want to go all the way downtown to go dancing. Ethel's is up there, which is great. We all know Ethel's. You can have a great time there. But we wanted a variety. And there was such an ask at UES because prior to the pandemic, they were drinking until 4 a.m. And so 3 o'clock to 2:30, where can we go dancing? Where can we go dancing? Because the music is not really the vibe there to go dancing. And I mean, even some of the songs we would have, people would be up in their booths just like wanting to dance. Yeah. So it was a great ask that we had. And I already was, so fortunate that this neighborhood received us so well and could see that this neighborhood wanted it. They asked for it. And it was actually the landlord of of UES, he had a space, he had a basement space on 84th Street, and he had asked me almost immediately, can you do something with this basement space? It was kind of just sitting empty, 1,100 square foot. And I was like, sure, I can, make it a little fun little lounge. But I just opened UES, so I wasn't really ready yet. But so then I actually had construction permits pulled for Not a Speakeasy March 7th, 2020. So, we all know what happens next. And so that put a pause on that. And then I didn't start construction back up until 2021. And then I opened Not a Speakeasy in 2022. And Not a Speakeasy was just meant for that. It was like a little lounge that we did. We had dancing on the weekends. We had DJs and did a lot of fun events. We did drag bingo. We did trivia nights. We did karaoke. And the other thing that was nice about it is we had a lot of guests that wanted to do parties at UES, but the way that it's situated with the booths not really being able to move, this was an open space, and I built it as an open space, so it was just the place you could go.
Let me just stop, because when you say you built it,
yeah,
you built it. You're a general contractor.
Yes, and that comes from like I said, my story to get my first place is pretty wild. The last job that I held in the industry, I was the area director for the Sugar Factory.
Okay.
The owner of the Sugar Factory is a very famous, nightclub owner from Las Vegas. I had opened the one in Meatpacking and one in LA, and then I was back in Vegas, and it was great. Prior to that, I was working for the Yankees. I ran the suites, I ran the bars, I was part of that, and I had already started to hit a place where I was like, well, I can do this for others. Maybe I want to do this for myself. Yeah. Then the opportunity came to work with Sugar Factory, and it was a fabulous opportunity that I wanted. And then just doing it and seeing how much it was the most I had, worked ever for someone. And I was like, I got to do this for myself. So 2014, I left. I went back home to New York. I missed New York. I missed my friends. I just missed my life. And I was like, I'm going to get an agent, and I'm going to get my own place. And thus the journey began. And for the next 3 years, I was turned down by landlords. I was dropped by agents. And it was because I was on my own. I didn't have a rich partner. I didn't have a rich anything. It was life savings that I had. Like I said, I was very fortunate. I had a lot of great jobs in Vegas. And since I didn't drink or do much, I just saved everything.
So you funded yourself.
Yes. And I mean, listen, I had some money in the bank, from being transparent. It was around $350,000 to do the build out at UES. I had taken 2 studio apartments and a nail salon, took all 3 of the spaces and combined them into the one.
Big project.
It was a big project. It was a huge project. And since I was not very padded as far as funding goes, I had to choose some cheaper options.
And figure it out.
So the contractor that I first had, that I worked with, well, he was good at what he was good at. He had never built bars before. He had, more quick serve restaurants was kind of, and I designed the place myself. And I also come in a difficult way where I just need to step into a space, feel a space, and then it just kind of comes to me, right? It's not like the traditional way of getting a designer with a program and then an architect, and they kind of put these things together and print out the blueprint, and then your contractor builds it out to spec. I just kind of go in and change order is the word. I want it here and no, then you get it. No, it's got to be here. So I learned a lot during that. I ended up being the project manager, but then also being the one to do the job because, the tile had to be laid perfect. It did matter that the pattern was connected. And a lot of people can lay tile, but are they going to lay it, perfectly? This was my baby. This was my dream. I finally, after 3 years of fighting, got a space. So it was a matter of necessity that I learned how to do these things. Yeah. And I learned so much. My gosh.
Maybe it's also like your personality that ends up coming through out so much and through in your places. So let's go. I want to get back because you have another one downtown.
Yes. So I had opened Not a Speakeasy in 2022. And like I said, it did great. I actually recently just sold it. And that's just because I opened Champagne Problems. It's been a year now downtown on Bowery and Spring. And, the greatest the most challenging space I've done thus far, 5,000 square foot going from 1,000 square foot venues. I took over the old Kanji dim sum house. So, I'm sure a lot of people know Kanji Village is on, it's just right around the corner on Delancey. Their original location is iconic. You go there for the karaoke and you go there for all the fun things they do and the best Chinese food you've ever had. And so they owned the building, and the family, they owned the building, and they opened up a dim sum, which was, just like a different version of the original. And they, decided to close that. And the family, it's very difficult. Chinese can be very secular. If a Chinese business goes out, a Chinese business goes in, they stay within their community to support each other. And I somehow was able to get in, and it was the son who was taking over for the father, because it was just, that time, and the son knew UES. Okay. And so it was kind of my foot in. He's like, I know that Speakeasy. And so, we all know that it's difficult on commercial tenants, but it's difficult on landlords as well. They have to pay their mortgages. So you need someone that's going to be able to pay that. Anyway, so I did. I took that over, and not for nothing, it was wild. It was wild because everything was in Chinese. Everything was in Chinese. The electric, the plumbing, all the MPs were in Chinese. So it's me with my phone trying to translate. What is this? Where does this go? Because it just kind of was like, here it is, and get after it. So yes, I opened Champagne Problems in June of last year. And Champagne Problems is, there's a lot of people, just like, art, people have taken away from it. They kind of have turned it into what they wanted, what they pull from it. But it was me staying in New York, wanting to open a nightlife venue. It was, the community board was great to me about getting, I have 3 4AMs, or I had the 3 4AMs. And Bowery is this great place that is feeling this, this turnover, a lot of places going out. So a lot of opportunity there, and not a lot of, tenants, residential tenants. And so I got the 4AM, and Champagne Problems was supposed to be about exactly what Champagne Problems are about. So I'm sure you know the term. Do you know the term?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people, and I know we'll touch on Miss Swift, but a lot of people, when I ask, they're like, Champagne Problems, that's a Taylor Swift song. It is a Taylor Swift song. Absolutely. It's a Taylor Swift song. It's also, many artists have a version. And my favorite version of, Champagne Problems, or the idea of Champagne Problems, is in Biggie's Juicy. He talks about Christmas missed us. Now we sip champagne when we thirsty. Yeah. And Champagne Problems are first world problems, are rich people problems, are, my yacht's out of gas, my glass is empty. And so the idea of Champagne Problems, my idea behind it, was for us to have that be our biggest problem in that venue, right? We know outside those doors, we have real problems, whether it's rent or it's our relationships or it's our jobs. But I wanted a place where you step in and you have Champagne Problems, where your biggest problem is your glass is empty. And guess what, baby? We're going to fill it. Yeah. So it's a place to have fun. And, you'll see when you get there. I mean, I built the place for you to get on my boots. I have the coupe glass, this coupe glass that, has gone viral. And I did it because, yes, I'm from Vegas, and I know the girls that danced. Dita, she's doing a residency right now in a coupe glass. And I remember coming up and seeing shows of the showgirls dancing in these coupe glasses. I had it custom made in the UK, brought it over, and it was not strong enough. Maybe a cup, a certain individual could fit, but I wanted everyone to get inside. So I welded it myself to the floor and added went to Queens, got the additional pieces of metal to really make it sturdy, because all the time they're like, oh, I can't. No, you get in there. Men, women, everyone gets inside. Everyone has that moment of being in a ball pit. We're adults, but our life is so heavy. Like, let's have some fun. Let's have some fun.
Well, that's what it is. I think you've designed these experiences and destinations that have more of a meaning than just it's a place to go eat and drink. It's like an experience. Like you said, you go in and Champagne Problems, and may your greatest problem when you're inside be need a refill. Yeah.
It's a very, it's kind of like, I love you. Depending on the weight you put behind it, it can be like, oh, I love it, or I love you. But the word fun, it's maybe very simple, but it packs so much meaning. And like I said, my mother actually, she had it was the president of Caesar's Palace, I believe. Then they were doing a meeting, and he was talking about how you guys are the keepers of fun, because everybody goes to Las Vegas to check. They want to have only champagne problems. Like I came from a city where you bought a bottle just to shake it and spray it, just to get wild. Everyone knows Vegas is the place to detach and have fun, where it's the adult playground. So again, coming from that place and from that home and the president of Caesar's Palace telling my mother, a dealer, that you guys are the keepers of fun, reminding them that people need to come here to have fun. Yeah. So be friendly, have fun, do all of this. And so this is something I've always thought of as well. And I want to be a keeper of fun as well.
So and listen, with all the tense things that are going on in the world, always, but now in particular, people just need to go have a little bit of fun and relax. What about, so you're building out these places, you have a couple places. Is there while they're all a little bit different, is there a common design theme, architectural theme, something that runs through that's really important to you for the core, the authenticity of the different venues?
So I definitely have been dubbed the Speakeasy Queen, right? Because all three of them are speakeasies. We know speakeasies operated during Prohibition, 20 to 33, where alcohol was illegal and you had to get through a secret door, the tiger's eye, the blind pig. One of these things, you had a password. And we also all know that, it's 2025, alcohol's legal. I think the closest thing we got to speakeasies was actually during the pandemic, when some places were or were not.
Yeah,
but we know, but what it is just, it's the fun of it, right? Because we can never actually experience a speakeasy. Sure. Alcohol's never going to be banned again. Yeah. So and you find so many people that love this time era, this Gatsby. We have the Great Gatsby party that they throw at Capitol every year, and we want to get dressed. We want to feel that Roaring 20s. And so that was the purpose and the vibe of UES, is to show you, it has to be a real business that operates during the day that you would never know. And then and it's just fun. Yeah. Again, back to that same word of, it's just fun. It's not that serious. And, so UES is the ice cream shop covering the back. Not a speakeasy, was actually a vintage fireplace mantle with a fireplace door and a roaring fire, very quintessential of New York and the fireplaces. We love that.
On you, for the ice cream shop, obviously, and tell me if I'm incorrect, but it's kind of the front for the speakeasy. Right. Here's this ice cream shop, but you go into the back and there's a speakeasy. How much is the ice cream part of your business? Is it, is it a meaningful part? Is it profitable? I was just saying, I live on the Upper West Side, and I swear over the past, I don't know, maybe 2 years, I feel like, ice cream and gelato, the Upper West Side is I don't know. It's there are so many new places, it's like the gelato and ice cream capital of the world right now. They just keep opening.
They do. And when I remember all of the new brands coming up, even on the Upper East Side. Like I said, I opened it because there were none. Yeah. And then there was Vans, and now we have Anita's, and we have all of the different types of ice cream shops. And it is a very important part of the business. Yeah. And I will tell you, the most important, and honestly, what saved my life and saved, maybe some people's lives, was during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So during the pandemic, we know that, bars were closed, but food was allowed to stay open. It was deemed as necessary. And on our specific block, we were open, the ice cream shop. We did our cocktails to go. I launched a cocktails a la mode program, and I delivered all over the city for Zoom dates. I made champagne baskets. Okay. And the diner was open as well. But what the ice cream shop became was this once a day place for people to take a walk. The children that came in, the elderly that came in, that we were used to, their aides would come in for their walk, and it became therapeutic. It became this bright pink ice cream shop where we would get used to. It was me and my best friends, because all my best friends were also out of work. So we took turns, scooping, and like I said, it saved our lives mentally, but so many others. So ice cream is so powerful. And, again, a simple concept or idea, but it always brings us back to when we were kids, right? I have my first memories. My mother always says, she always had a walk to the Dairy Queen. My dad would take her when she was pregnant with me. When I would go visit my grandmother in Canada, that was after we worked on the farm all day. That was our treat at the end of the day. So there's something so innocent and so necessary about ice cream that brings us all back. And so, yes, it's still a very important part of the shop. And it's also really beautiful. We've had people go to UES that have had their first dates. Then they've had their engagement parties. Then they've had their wedding receptions. Then pregnant with their child. And then their baby's first taste of ice cream. Oh, my God. It's
full circle.
Oh, my gosh. It's it's those types of things that,
That's
makes
amazing.
it all worth it, or why you're doing something like this.
What about with the design standards and like social media? Obviously, one of the things everyone always comes up, is this, Instagrammable? Is it this? Is it that? How much thought do you put into like social media and how other people are going to promote it? Or is it just more of, you know, if I build it the way that I want, I think people are going to like it and they're going to post about it versus like designing specifically to be social media friendly, if that makes sense.
So I feel like it's always it's me, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't design it per se to be social media, but I'm a loud person. I dress loud. I have my own style. I've always had this way. And again, coming from Las Vegas, where there's a big lion and there's a Statue of Liberty, there's the Eiffel Tower, there's New York and a pyramid and all these types of things. Like feathers and fashion and stuff. So the way that I designed it, like UES obviously opened in 2017. I remember in the pandemic, my niece, she's like, "Oh, you're on TikTok." And I'm like, "What the hell is TikTok?" And she showed me, and then obviously it happened. But I, of course didn't design it to be for social media because that wasn't there yet. I just happened to design just the same way I think. And that's for some people, there's certain artists like Ashley Longshore. She's an artist that I love, and she's very loud and crass, and there's fuck every other word. She's like, I walked inside her gallery once and I was like, am I walking inside my own brain?
Yeah.
And her art isn't for everyone, but it's for the people that it's for. And so my places aren't designed for social media. They just happen to be something that somebody wants to take a picture of. But at the same time, I design for the babes, right? I design for the babes. Babes get dressed up like, you look wonderful, but I guarantee that this took a little bit longer than this did. And so when you design a place and it comes from a woman's standpoint, and like, oh my gosh, seeing these women come through and with the shoes and the jewelry and the outfits and things like that. So they want to look beautiful. They put in all this work to look a certain way. And then, I make these places like mini little photo ops because
well, that's kind of like even with social media, the stuff that tends to hit is the stuff that's authentic and it's natural.
Yeah.
Yes, it's being built first, put on social media, but when someone comes across like that authentic, so that's kind of the same thing, I guess, with your places. You've built them in an authentic way that represents you, and that's why people, feel good and they have such a nice look. Because I look at your social and I see people when they're there and what they post, and it just it's beautiful. It's like a set. It's where else would you want to be? And it's this unique experience. Talking about dressing, and thank you for, I don't think I put in
looking
as
sharp
much as you, but did I recently like dress codes? Do you have?
Yes. So once upon a time,
Not at the ice cream shop though.
It was, well, not the shop. So
But
when I first opened UES, and this is something that, and again, as a business owner, you learn things, and, you also have to be able to admit your mistakes, and not even so much the mistakes, but you can't foresee the future, right? I'm actually reading a book called, Black Swan. I'm sure, yes. And so it's always about these outliers and these things that you can't predict, that you don't know is going to come. So when I opened UES, it was a dress code, but it was just no sneakers, casual wear. It was supposed to make you feel like you were going back to that roaring 20s Great Gatsby time era. And like I said, I don't like to use the word mistake. I'm more of a person that it's only a mistake if you don't learn a lesson. Sure. But I did it with the best intentions. And then I put off a lot of industry people. And I'm an industry kid myself. Like this is how I dress. It was never that, the bartenders or the staff that just got off can't come in. And it didn't translate well. On top of the fact, at that very same time, every brand was coming out with their line of sneakers. This was the new fashion trend. So I kind of did this at a time that it was not received. And then after the pandemic, I lifted the dress code because it was never about that. I don't discriminate. Never.
But I get it. You were trying to evoke a certain period and have people intentionally go out.
Yes.
And listen, I think the pandemic obviously made everyone much more casual, but I'm with you about like how you look at mistakes. Listen, you're a business owner. You can do a lot of things right, but not everything's going to hit. And to
Yeah.
be successful, you have to learn, when talking about the pandemic, a pandemic term, pivot, right?
Right.
And figure out what works, what doesn't, and not be ashamed to, keep digging in when something may not work.
Yeah, and it's also I think we've talked about this in the past, is that it is also difficult to translate to your staff exactly. I had young individuals that didn't know how to deliver the message the right way that made people feel a certain way. Because like I said, I'm from Vegas, where the door guy can make you feel like this small. And this is never my intention, ever. I want everybody. I mean, like, why would I open a place to the public to, make certain members of the public feel a certain way? Like, that's just, and that's just like not my style. But like, I found that the certain staff members, they didn't deliver this message, so it made people feel a certain way. And like I said, it was a choice that I made. And certainly, I'm always apologetic to anybody that I made it feel, but it was, like I said, a lesson learned. I won't do that again. And yes, things have changed. I mean, after the pandemic, we certainly still had people that would show up in their pajamas, straight flannel pajamas and Crocs and hoodies. And at this point, I didn't want to make anybody, because I feel like, the pandemic put us in this very vulnerable spot, and nobody needed anything more on their plate. So
I'm with you in the spirit, though. I mean, I think there is something to be said about kind of evoking another time when people are potentially getting ready to go out. But I think from, a business perspective today, operating to be successful, like once in a blue, people may want to get dressed up, have that overall experience, but just the ebbs and flows. A bartender gets off work, they want to go out, they're not in that. So I think that's important. What do you look for? So like when you walk into your bars, obviously there's a million different things going on, but are there one or two different aspects of the operation, things that are being set up, that you go and look at first to make sure they're up to your standards, they're happening in a way that you think are, authentic and important for the business to be successful?
Well, yes. I mean, I feel like, every business has their own, like, opening checklist, or the things that you're looking for. Obviously, I always say, the three most important C's in a business is consistency, cleanliness, and communication. And a great business for is Cortney Bond. But the cleanliness, right? This is huge. I'm like, and it doesn't matter what business it is, you must be clean. So I'm like psychotic about that. I always want to make sure that, especially if I'm encouraging everyone to come in here and take millions of photos and video, you have to be clean. But it also just shows, like I said, UES is 8 years old and clean. You can, eat off the floors. We make sure of it. Is everything clean? Was the clothes the night before up to standards? And then, just like a chef were to taste everything in their line, because I actually come from kitchens. My first job, I was a dishwasher at 13. I came up through kitchens. You're tasting everything in your station. Are your sauces, are your purees, are all of your ingredients, if you are going to have a fresh cocktail, or if you are making, are they up to your standards? Is the mint minty that day? Looking at these types of things. And then, obviously the setup, I always, I have a lot of like isms and things that I say, but everything has a home. So we make sure that once you learn the home of something, is it there the exact same way? So all the staff members know exactly where it is, where to put it. Are they dressed? And then, like, are we ready? We have a pre-shift, and we talk about the events that are going to happen that evening, or even events at all. Maybe it's the weather, maybe it's whatever. But certainly the first thing I look for is, are we clean?
Standards,
yes. Are we ready to go? Yes.
Team.
And is the vibe there, right? Is the vibe there? Because this is, again, I use the analogy a lot of times of Disneyland, right? People go to Disneyland, they spend a lot of money, and the entire time on, at Disneyland, the princesses are like this, taking photos with all of your families. They're not, smoking cigarettes and texting or whatever. So it's a vibe check. We check our stuff at the door. We're ready to put on our princess hat, and we are ready to, be your tour guide through this experience, or we're ready to have fun, because nobody pays to go out to hear about your bad day. Nobody is, and especially we know it's expensive to go out, and sometimes it takes a lot for people to go out. So certainly,
you're in the people business.
We're in the people business. Yes. And
to remember.
Yes. And the pandemic taught everyone, you can make your drinks at home, you can eat at home, you can do everything at home. So if you are going to go out, that one factor that, that can really make your experience is that human connection,
What
which
about when you go out? I mean, coming from Vegas, having that upbringing that you explained, having your own places. If you go to a bar, club, or restaurant, you must be doing like a little bit of market research. What are some of the
oh,
things that you're looking at in other places to either get ideas for your place, to hone the stuff you're doing, or even things you see to learn, not what to do. Sometimes we learn about what to do by doing things wrong.
absolutely. And anybody in their industry is constantly, doing that. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
When I have my time away, that's all I want to do is visit new bars, new restaurants to see what they're doing. We have to, reinvent, be innovative. What are the
Mhm.
trends? What are people liking? And the things that I look for are the same things that we want to offer. And, I wasn't going to do it, but I have to do it because I did corner store for the first time. I went by myself last Sunday. I got a stool there, and man, did it hit. Man, did it
Yeah.
hit. And when I say hit, everyone knows all the viral Instagrammable things that they're showing. That sour cream and onion martini was amazing with a side of sour cream and onion chips. Their tomato martini, amazing. Pecan old fashioned, not too sweet because I'm a spirit forward, less sweet type of drinker, and it hit. And then all of the things that, the Caesar salad, the friendship in the au jus, the Samoa, it all hit. And it was not just that because that's something that's very important is the quality, right? We know that going out is a $200 spend minimum.
Yeah.
That's it. So if you are going to be spending that much, you want the quality to match that. It can be, and it was definitely difficult for restaurants and bars to get quality items after the pandemic, vendors and farmers and
Yeah.
so on. So is that content there? Is it whatever they're offering, is that
Yeah.
on point? And then it's the service, right? It's right from the start, the doorman there, he's wonderful. And he's obviously one of the most popular doorman right now. And he could be a certain way, but he's kind. He's really, really kind. His name's Jermaine. He's just always so nice, even when he's telling you no. And then the bartender, the gentleman that I had, there's multiple bartenders, and the service was so great. And, you couldn't finish your water without it being refilled, and the plates and just everything. Everyone was really kind. The food was really amazing. And the vibe was like on point. Everyone was having a good time. So when I go to a place, I do look for these things. I look for, we've had these experiences where we go, and unfortunately you hit potentially a staff member, an employee that's not having the best day, or maybe didn't put their princess hat on that day. And it's just human nature to have a bad day, right? And we know that because it's happened sometimes, my
It
staff,
happens to everybody.
it happens
I mean,
to
that's
everybody. Yeah,
inevitable.
it's inevitable. And it can really change your experience when that person is just like not in the mood to be your tour guide that day, and that can be rough. And then all the things, atmosphere is so important. The ambiance, the lighting, the sound, all these things coming together really can, when they line up the right way, like a slot machine 777, it's magical. So I do, of course, I'm looking at what do people want, what are they gravitating towards, what do they enjoy, and there's so many, factors. People go to places because it's their spot. It's their spot. You go to Emilio's and Emilio's there, like that. You go to Pop's Bagels right next door, Pop is there. So that's something that is just also quintessential in New York and very special about New York.
People feel connected to their place.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I always think so special about the industry is that, there's the places that you go for special occasions, but then there are also those places that are in your neighborhood. And for one reason, you just go back all the time. You get to know people because they become like your spot, your space,
That's your spot.
And there are those things that connect,
Mm-hmm.
it's comfortable, it's clean, the people, they treat you well, they remember things you drink, they remember things you eat,
Yes.
going back to that human experience and that kind of escape.
Yeah.
Like you said before, champagne problems. It's you go out, you want to be taken care of, you want to have a wonderful experience, and maybe at least for the time you're inside, forget about everything else that's going on that may be causing you concern or causing you trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is just also very New York, right? Like there's a reason why, people love living here, and we all say the same word. It's the energy, right?
Yep.
It's the energy of New York, and it's you step outside and right away,
And it's your living room. I mean, listen, most people live in smaller apartments. You don't have as many, house party type places. So much of just your social experience happens out at restaurants and bars, not in your home. So I think that has also, contributes to it. drinks, we were talking about, alcohol, and you had mentioned earlier about, are people, drinking less. So two things. One, your, cocktail menu and the design. I think you do a lot of creative stuff. And then what are you seeing as far as people consuming less alcohol? I know there's lots of reports now that just Americans in general are drinking a lot less. A lot are not drinking at all. Are you seeing that impact your bottom line? What are you doing, if anything, to, adjust? Because, normally businesses make money, off their alcohol.
Yes, they're drinking less. I mean, there's no two ways about it. People are drinking less, and for multiple reasons. I think that after the pandemic, not to get too deep, but alcohol is a depressant. We know it, and so if you're mixing that with already not being in the greatest place, people didn't like the way and the thoughts and the things that they were feeling with alcohol. I like I said, in my 20s, I was an athlete. I was a Muay Thai fighter. Once upon a time, I was a ballet dancer. So I come from a place where, your health and your stamina and drinking, all of these things, I didn't drink. I used to go to the nightclubs with my little Tupperwares.
Yeah.
But
you drink now.
Yes, I drink now, and I drink now, and I love to drink.
Yeah.
It is like I said, part of my industry. I not that I couldn't have gone to the the corner store and had a great dinner and not had a cocktail, but to have that sour cream and onion martini or whatever, it is something that I do love. But it's also something that I've never been controlled by, right?
Yeah.
And I am a huge proponent. Like I said, I'm from Vegas, where I probably have seen the most alcoholics and the most sober people ever, because Vegas hits you hard and you get to a place that you're no longer you. And many club hosts, owners, sober, because they had hit
so many people.
And so for me, it was always very common to go to the club and either someone's next to you is recovering and then the other one's just, so I feel like a lot of people want to feel good about themselves, which I am again about.
Yeah.
Now, yes, that does kind of hit when you just are a bar and drinking is your main source. And I think we also know that you can use the term vice because, yes, okay, we can say what is good for you, but people are smoking, right? We did this. We legalized it, or we decriminalized it. People are smoking. They're vaping, they're smoking, and that's the next choice, the same way that it went from no drinking to drinking.
And there are other studies showing as cannabis,
Yes.
rose, alcohol went down.
Yes. And so I think to your first question is that that's never been something, that's not something that was new to me. I have always offered mocktails. The term now is zero proof, but I've always offered a mocktail for, especially being on the Upper East Side, we have a lot of pregnant mothers that want to come in, but it's for the people in the fitness industry. It's for the recovering alcoholics, the recovering addicts, that they're welcome too. I never want anyone to feel like they're not. And people know, I go out with friends that don't drink at all. I'll have 10, you have none. It's fine. So that's always been important to me. This zero proof, wave that we're feeling is great, but I still offer. So again, something that people know when they go to any of my venues is that you're going to drink fun. I encourage people to drink outside of the box. And yeah, it's going to be in something crazy. It's going to be in a panda or a duck, or we're going to light it on fire, or it's going to be, something wacky. And so our top selling is our zero proof panda, which is a blueberry cordial, lavender, some honey, and top with the Wolfer Estate spring in a bottle, non-alcoholic Blanc de Blanc, which is beautiful. It comes with a side of UES ice cream. So I'm still going to charge.
Made it into experience. Listen, I don't drink anymore. And the explosion of quality NA and quality, you know, on menus changes it. Because in the past, if you don't drink, you either have water, seltzer, Diet Coke.
Yes, or some Sprite cocktail. It's disgusting.
Or is it some overly sweet, thing? I'll make you some juice or something.
Yeah.
But just the numbers from a financial point, you were talking about how it's expensive to run a small business, a restaurant or bar in New York City. And if, a third, half of your people aren't drinking and they're just going for that, soda or whatnot, you're losing a lot of money. You're leaving it on the table because people can drink quality NA, and the price isn't that much different. I mean, I was out the other night, and these NA cocktails are $18, $20, and it's like, wow, that's the same thing as
one with alcohol,
a regular cocktail. I was going to ask you something else about on the drinking. What about again, you were saying, I don't know if we got into it, but with Champagne Problems and Taylor Swift, and people were calling, I don't know, what Taylor Swift place or what
Well,
It's
and like I said, so inside, I mean, I always bring people that have inspired me along the way. So I have an artist that has done a mural for me in every
Mhm.
one of my properties named Tom Sanford. I found him actually when the Museum of Ice Cream was first a pop-up in Chelsea, I want to say, like
Okay.
their very first one, no, by the Whitney. And he had this picture of this ice cream cone, and I loved it. And I went on social media, did the deep dive to find out who he
Mhm.
was. And he's this artist from Harlem, and he did a lot of like rappers and NBA
Mhm.
players. And I was like, one day I'm gonna have a place, and I want you to
Yeah.
to design. So I had him do the Fab Five on the Upper East Side, 5 different characters that had something to do with the Upper East Side that people wouldn't normally choose. They, Jackie O is on it, and Scorsese's on it, and Vera Wang is on it, and Biggie's on it, and people are like, why Biggie? Born in Brooklyn, but he had his funeral on the Upper East
Yeah.
Side. Like, people don't know that. So anyway, so I bring Tom along with me, and so at Champagne Problems, I start with like a little Sharpie, and I'm drawing my little head figures, and he brings it to magical life. But this one was Champagne Problems, and all of the people in the front in this mural have something to do with champagne. Drake's on there, and Biggie's on there, and Jay-Z and Beyonce, even Kim Kardashian, Taylor's on there, and then in the back it's all of the the veterans that have to do something with champagne, Coco Chanel and Dom Perignon, and even James Bond. So I put a lot of art in different places and a lot of people who have inspired me. So Taylor Swift is someone that's inspired me. Like, she's inspired so many people. Her song, If I Were the Man, I'd Be the Man, is like the anthem of my life. And so when I was building it, I wanted to pay a little tribute to her. I have her music videos playing in black and white in the background. And, I have the coasters have a picture of her sipping champagne, and just pictures of her, but pictures of a lot of people. And also, Ashley Longshore's that artist that I mentioned, her pieces of art are there. Elizabeth Sutton is another artist, New York artist that I love. She's actually an Upper East Sider as well. So there were so many people that had inspired me or were a part of my journey. And, Taylor as well, being, fearless, and we all know her story and how hard she fought is very similar, obviously different, but in my industry, I fought very hard as well. And she's always, had a hand in her writing and her music and her directing her videos and then starring in them. And every single thing I do, I have my hand in it. So this was just like a, hey, babe,
Really
thanks.
resonates.
Yeah. It was that. So then in the very beginning, a young lady came in, speaking back to social media, because I don't really, influencers is important, definitely a very important industry, but I find that them coming in organically is worked out better for us. But this young lady, she's not even an influencer. She kind of just tied all the little things and dropped it on TikTok, and it went viral. It went boom.
Yeah.
And it went from, people coming in to everyone coming in, Swifties coming in, and like they were like, this is the Taylor Swift bar. And I was like, wow.
Swiftie is a market.
So, whoa. And, because we do play Taylor Swift, and we play more Taylor Swift than any other bar, but we play other artists as well.
Yeah.
And what I found was, some people, they really loved it. And then some people really hated it. They hate it. Some of them, why is there a giraffe on the bar? And they imagined that they would walk in more to like a Taylor Swift museum where everything was going to be.
Well, it's, you're never going to make everyone happy. And when things go on social media, people just go out of their way to have these like really over the top opinions.
Yeah.
Build expectations.
Yeah. But, like I said, like, and they come in like, do you like her music? Yeah, I love her music.
Yeah.
I love her music. Like Taylor Swift, I've listened to her songs. I mean, but just as much as I've listened, like when I'm building out, I'm listening to Eminem. I need to stay up. It's been 24, 48 hours. I'm listening to Drake. I'm listening to a lot of artists, and certainly her music, like she's a lyrical genius. And so the way she's inspired so many businesses, I mean, my gosh, so many businesses have been a result of her, whether it's clothing or, oh my gosh, some of the creative things I've seen online, like it's insane. And so she's just like paying forward her life in this really beautiful way. And it's magical when it lines up, when the DJ is playing Swift and you got Swifties in there, and the whole building shakes, and it goes back to, again, having fun, and they're screaming at the top of their lungs, we are never ever getting back together. Like, that shit's fun. And it doesn't matter. And I've had DJs that like don't want to play it. I'm like, babe, you can't ignore, like, this is why you're in the industry. They want to dance, they want to have a good time, so I am 100% for that. And I also built the place for Taylor to come. She doesn't want to come on her, she's a very busy gal. And so when she has her nights off, she doesn't want to come to a place that's only playing her music with only her picture up on the wall. She wants to go to a place that she can vibe out too. Like she's fun and,
Come?
she hasn't come
Okay.
yet. No, she has a private room in back that was built for her when she wants to come. That's going
Wow,
to be
look
just
at
for her.
that.
Yeah. So want to make sure that she's not
Good.
feeling a little overwhelmed when she
So,
does come. So.
Totally changing subjects. So
Yeah.
I was just like talking about social media. I was scrolling on Instagram, and all of a sudden I did a double take because I like scrolled past and I scrolled back. It's like, is that Cortney? And you're like, Mark.
Oh yeah.
So there's a guy on Instagram. I don't even think I'm following him after this episode, but Body by Mark.
Yeah,
And
Body
what
by
does he do? He
Mark.
just like stops people on the street that are in good shape and talks to them.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And
So I went crazy. I was like, wait, what? That's cool.
that was, and I literally, because I like on Mondays, I'll go to.
Like, were you on like Lafayette? Where were you?
I was on Lafayette.
Okay,
I
you
had
are.
just gotten off of the Astor Street or the Astor Place. I just gotten off the subway. On Mondays, I like to go to Long Beach and just like disconnect, be by the water. So I go to Penn Station, take the train to Long Beach. And I was just coming back. I was leaving a voice note for my girlfriend because I'm a big voice noter. And I was just like, rapping to her about my day.
And
that's
Body by Mark is there with.
and I was like,
camera
look,
in
I
his face?
looked up and there he was. And like, I knew, but he was already filming. He had his shirt that said Body by Mark. I was like, no fucking way. And it was, just totally organic. Like, I mean, you saw it and I was like, I was shook.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, this chick's crazy. But it was exciting because, as I said in the video, like I am a New Yorker and I love all the ways that people contribute to our city. And he's a contributor to our city and a totally different type of New Yorker. Like this guy, he probably exists early in the mornings and he's not going late out, to bars or whatever. And the whole fitness industry, that's another, type of New Yorker, another thing. And it's awesome. It's like, I don't know. It is like
people have to check out the episode because also you got up on a light post.
Yes, I did.
10 pull-ups.
Well, and just to be fair, which he knows I'm coming for him because the video was a little bit longer. He first said chin-ups, which is just a certain grip that you grip like this. It's an underhand grip. And then last minute he was videoing because I know that usually he says pull-ups in the videos because I know what he asks. Like I said, I follow him. So I did the pull-ups, but I was slipping. I had just put lotion on my legs.
It was amazing. I like sent it to people and I'm like, oh, everyone's like, oh my God.
So I'm going to find Mark again organically and I'm going to make him, I'm going to do 10 pull-ups.
Your expression, just Mark, you're like, no, or whatever you were saying. You were so like genuinely.
I was, and it's crazy because like I'm from Vegas. I've met every celebrity, everyone you could possibly think of, but for whatever reason, it was exciting because.
And he's the guy when you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I like that, like I said, again, as well, we know that, especially with social media, that's another economy, another way people make it. There's the guy that asks, what do you do for a living? Where do you live? How did you guys meet? Are you a couple?
It catches people just going by, doing their, daily walk or wherever they're going, stopping them and asking them a question about something that people can connect to, things where you kind of think and want to give a thoughtful answer to. And I think it's great. That video is great. I was like so excited, happy to see you. And like I said, it was totally random. I even saw you posting. I saw it on his thing.
Yeah.
And talking about that, just because I remember you were like a hero on the Upper West Side. Now I get it why you chased this guy out. So during the pandemic, kind of coming out of the pandemic, there were some issues. Thankfully, they've gotten a lot better with just kind of people that maybe weren't all together or up to mischief. And someone came into the bar. Did they steal money from the tip jar from your place or somewhere else? And
so, I mean, we all know our neighborhoods and we all have, the homeless people that we know. Like we had a guy on the Upper East Side on 87th. He actually lived there with his dog forever. And when he died, we had like a mini funeral for him. Like we just kind of know our hood and the people that are in our hood. Sure. After the pandemic, it was very different. A lot of businesses had closed. So a lot of, dark stores equated to a lot of dark areas and a lot of, dark things. And the Upper East Side, we weren't used to that. It's, we all know that the Upper East Side is like the suburbs of the city. Upper West Side it's a lot of families and stuff. And things definitely changed. And so you were seeing people that were, I remember boarding up the windows because they were breaking the glass. They did it at the Best Buy on 86. They did it to, on Madison Avenue. They were doing these things. So it was definitely a different time. And it was a Saturday night, and this guy had come in. And so we have the ice cream shop, and then we have the bar in the back. But he came into the ice cream shop. We had a little tip jar up front, and he came in and he took the tips. And my host, tried to stop him, which I always, I say, do not engage. Just just the tips. But he was upset and, kind of got into it with this guy. And then this guy left. And I hate that, for my employees. Like, you don't open a business. You open your business, and yes, your employees are going to have bad days and, maybe with bad guests, but you never open a business so that your employee can get harassed, accosted, or hurt physically. Oh my gosh. And so this guy hit my host, and I was shook by it. And so the next day, it was a Sunday. It was the same host, and I was in the back. I was in the office, and it was before we had opened, and we operate in group chats, and he was like, he's back again. And I'm like, he's back again. And so I was watching on the camera. He goes to the coffee shop next door, and they get hit a lot too because they're just very sweet. So they just kind of let anybody take from the counter. They put all the Red Bulls and the things in the back now. So he takes from them, and then he comes back in to take the tip jar again. I just kind of like a parent wants to protect their child. I ran upstairs, and so he's across. My host is chasing him, and he's got the tip jar, and I'm like, just stop, just go back, and I just start booking it. I'm calling 911 as I'm booking it. I'm like, I will be damned, because I was so upset that this was happening. So we're on 99, 100, 101, 102. I'm on the phone with 911. I'm like, I'm chasing this guy. I will not let up. He accosted my employee, and then it was actually a cop car coming down on 2nd Avenue, and I jumped in front of the cop car, and I'm waving, and I'm chasing this guy. So they got out, they ran, we caught him. I think it was 110 or something. We finally got him, and turns out he had a serious criminal record, and he was, from downtown, had come uptown. And, everyone, said to me, what if it turned bad? And the truth is then it turned bad, because it's kind of if you don't hit someone with the hammer, he was just going to keep coming back. He didn't care. He was taking from next door. He was taking, and we know that the cops have, were spread very thin after the pandemic, and you can't always expect them to show up. So, I've got a bat in the shop, and Kiki is her
careful.
name. So
yeah. All right,
Sometimes-
last thing, because then we got to go. Talking about all this stuff, the one thing we didn't get too much into was government. And I know you have a lot of different ideas about this as a small business owner, someone that puts their life into these, bars that invest in the city, employs people, creates great jobs, creates incredible experiences for you. Is there anything that you think government could be doing, because the show is hospitality and politics, to really support you more, or change something to help you and inspire you to open up new places in New York?
Ooh, wow. That for the very end. Okay. So, a couple things. And I know you've heard me say this, but I'll officially say it here. So I think that the trajectory for me is I want to eventually run for Nightlife mayor after Jeff has done his term. And then I want to run for mayor of New York City. And that'll be down the road. And it's because of how much I love New York, and again, Nightlife, and, she's till death do us part, me in New York City. But as far as, government, we do need to step in and help. And I have been thinking of ways, and we've discussed this. So number one, we touched on cannabis. We need to talk about the licensing for that. So we need to talk about lounges, because if we need to reinvent, or if we need to adapt to what people want, if people want to smoke now, then we need to be able to offer smoking lounges. We need to either have zones for that. We need to have a place where people can vape without getting in trouble.
Yeah, and I think that's actually in the law to have these consumption lounges, but the rollout's been so problematic that they haven't rolled out yet. And that's something I actually hear a lot from people.
Yes. It's something, like I said, it's in demand. So, if I can create a fun lounge where, okay, you vape and you smoke instead of, drink alcohol, then I want to be able to do that. I also know that, and I know that you guys, the Alliance helped with drinking on Sundays, going from, 10 or 12 now to 10. And, but it's also is the day club. And I've mentioned that to you before, it's something that's, prevalent in Miami. I would like to open up a day club as as well, so that, okay, maybe people still want to drink, which I think that they still do, but maybe they don't want to do it at 11 o'clock. Maybe they want to do it in the afternoons, and then this way they can get home, they can go to sleep, and then they can still wake up, recharged or refreshed. I want to, open up some sort of coffee day club. So that's something, the hours of that. And then, this is something that I was just kind of, because I know that ideas are really great, but you really need to have the execution and a plan for them, but some sort of rent lotto where all of the owners, we pay back a lot through taxes and such, but a rent lotto where you can enter it as a small business, and maybe we pay whatever it is, each business owner pays 10, but then you get picked and your rent's paid that month. Because we know what summer's like. It's summer. It's miserable for a lot of bars right now. A lot of people are traveling, which is also good because that means people are out, they're traveling, they're back to the way that they were. I remember right after the pandemic, nobody really went away, and that's just because people really couldn't travel. But I feel like that could just be something fun as well, where you get picked. Guess what? This month your rent is on us, is on other small businesses. Yeah, just something that I was thinking of. I'm not sure. Like I would obviously.
All good creative. Listen, this is part of it. It's like throwing out ideas.
You have to round table. You have to.
And Jeff's actually, Garcia's coming on the show. He's for the Office of Nightlife in the city.
Wonderful.
Obviously, we're close with Ariel, who was the first Nightlife. So, he'll keep serving, and it's great to know your ambition. And listen, if one day in the future you do, I don't even say if you do, when you do, if you seem very committed to it, you have to come on and talk about Mayor Bond.
Yeah, Mayor Bond. So first Jeff and then Eric. I'm coming for both. And I figured I'd say it here first. That where else, where else would I say it? But yes, and speaking on, both of them, they've done such a wonderful job, especially Ariel. She's around, she's out. I see her all the time going to these places and supporting, and so do I. We're constantly supporting each other. I think that a lot of times, talking about these things, being able to commiserate or celebrate with fellow owners is important. But I think that we know that it is this commercial rent. This is what is so difficult. And so this market, and it can be a very unfair market. I know Richie has spoken about this is the last time we were with Mayor Adams, and it is very true that if you do have a lot of money, what market is for some people is not market for small business. When you come from money or you have a huge backing, it's very easy to open up a club or a restaurant and then already have that immediate business because you have the money to promote it, to get the people in. You have, all this money. So somebody that doesn't have all this money, how can they compete? So I do feel like, something needs to be done to make the playing field more level.
Courtney Bond, UES,
Yeah.
campaign problems, hospitality, and politics right there at the end.
Yorker,
Thank you for coming on. I like
Thank
it.
you. Thank
Polite
you so
New
much.
Yorker.
Yeah.
And it's Grace.
It's from Grace Papaya. Do you remember that?
I go all the time.
The last thing, because I wore these pineapples for you, and I told you I was going to tell you this. Hospitality. But there was a restaurant on Park Avenue called Florian. I don't know if you ever, it was a long time ago, but when you left, they gave you a baby pineapple. Beautiful. It was so beautiful. So thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure.
Thank you for all you do. Yeah. Andrew Ridgie, Hospitality and Politics, powered by the New York City Hospitality Alliance. Courtney, we'll hang out soon.